I'm Carrie from the Just One More Fix podcast, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network. Just like the show you're listening to now, the opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Check out all other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
This is the official GonnaGeek.com show. Here we're a bunch of geeks talking about geeky things. Each week we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven.
But what if I'm in the mood for a T-Swift story?
Chris.
I've heard the X is going to give it to you.
And SP.
That's how we roll on Gonna Geek on Monday night. We get crazy!
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Welcome to an all-new episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I am Stephen John Drew, and with me, of course, is the full crew, which includes Chris Farrell.
Well, hidey-ho, neighborinos.
And we also have with us Stargate Pioneer.
It's Monday night. It's time to get crazy, and it is time for us to get a geek on.
Absolutely. And speaking of getting your geek on, did you know you can get your geek on the Gonna Geek Network, which you can find over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. There's a lot of awesome, amazing podcasts over there at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. You want to check them out. It's www.GonnaGeekNetwork.com. We have stuff that covers a bunch of geeky television shows, a bunch of other miscellaneous geekery, and there is even one that follows Chris Farrell around town as he robs people.
Yes, it's the Chris Robs People cast, where I literally go in and say, give me all your money, and they give me all their money, and I go, ha ha ha, and SP flies a drone behind me as I do it that records everything.
That is a sweet idea. I love that YouTube idea.
But you're just robbing the rich to give that money to the poor and to me so I can buy more drones.
I'm robbing the rich to give to me.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our news. Here we go. All right, let's start off with a Kodi crackdown. For those of you...
Kodi Goff?
I was going to say, for those of you not familiar with the Gonna Geek Network, there is an awesome host over there named Kodi Goff on Game Life Balance US. You want to check that show out where you can find Kodi Goff and you can see him talk about all sorts of things that he probably legally shouldn't be recording. But today it is not about that, Kodi. No, it is about the Kodi crackdown. If you are not familiar with Kodi is essentially it's a software that runs on certain platforms. And one of the things that Kodi has is the possibility of adding on certain extensions. Kind of like if you've ever seen in your Firefox or your Chrome, you can add different extensions. Well, Kodi has that capability. And guess what? One of the most common Kodi extensions is one that is used for illegal, possibly, streaming. I say possibly because it's in debate of certain countries, but the bottom line is you're not paying for content that you should be paying for. So that is one of the main reasons that Kodi is so popular. And also, these boxes are often known as Kodi boxes, and the most popular is just basically a version of Android that's running on them, or running Kodi, and you find them all over the place. There's a variety of different methods available to get Kodi. Well, there's been quite the development in the last couple of weeks of Kodi. Now, number one, we'll start off with the UK news, which is the fact that Kodi is indeed banned in the UK. There has been some legal crackdown, and that means that essentially every streaming add-on is blacklisted for Kodi in the app repository, which is going to, of course, cause all sorts of problems if you're trying to get that. Now, on this side of the pond, there's also an interesting change within the world of Google. That's right, Google removed the term Kodi from search autocomplete in an anti-piracy effort. So another change within Kodi. And if that wasn't enough, here's the kicker. Kodi has essentially dropped support for all platforms except the Xbox One, meaning that those cheapo Android boxes likely won't see a lot of support. And that's why I set this article up, because a lot of people who use the Kodi boxes are indeed using an Android-based one. So it looks like the shift really is happening in the world of Kodi. Now, all of those of us who are familiar with the world of the history, I'll call it the history of not paying for content. We've seen it with torrents. We've seen it with other things. It's just going to evolve to something else. Oh, by the way, yeah, if that wasn't enough, there was also some Kodi box criminals that were jailed after an investigation. Yes, 2 men were jailed for 4.5 years each for selling hundreds of, quote, Kodi-type illegal streaming services. So, yeah, some big changes within the world of Kodi, and those of you who are using Kodi boxes, number 1, consult your laws, make sure you're staying legal. There's our legal disclaimer. Number 2, yeah, you probably are going to see some changes.
I got a question for both of you.
Quest.
So a few years ago, when we were all using VCRs, you could record a TV show coming in on cable or over the air on your VCR and take that tape into work and pass it off to a coworker so they could experience the show too. What is the digital equivalent of that in Canada and the United States?
Well, technically, if it was like a football game or something, you weren't allowed to do that because they say that at the end of it about how you can treat things like that. So you could do so legally. I'm not sure how it all works. What's the digital equivalent anymore? Giving someone the login to your online DVR or something like that if you have a Comcast DVR or a Sling TV DVR or something like that. That's the best I can say, which is, hey, here's the keys. Come on in and take a look.
I believe in Canada, we actually have digital laws that limit copywriting and passing along information. They actually modernized our copyright law a while back. For a very long time, we were behind the times, and torrenting and stuff was essentially legal due to previous action that came from a Sony lawsuit years ago in the music world. Now that all changed a few years ago, and I believe that the idea of actually recording something that you're not supposed to record and passing around is indeed illegal now in Canada.
So there might be a better example in today's world. Are you guys familiar with ultraviolet when it comes to movies?
Yeah.
I am not familiar with ultraviolet. What is it? No, I'm totally familiar with it.
So for those that might not be familiar, ultraviolet's the spec that the MPAA and the big movie industry is pushing out there to basically say, hey, when you buy a movie, it comes with a digital copy. You can redeem this digital copy and you can play it through the ultraviolet site, through Vudu, iTunes, Amazon, certain sites, depending on where all you've got your accounts linked. There is a method if you go directly to the ultraviolet website to share your library with up to 5 family members. So maybe this is the equivalent of that, as I'm sharing my ultraviolet library with my father through the portal that they have set up there that gives him access to the stuff that I have purchased digital copies for. It's completely legal. It's done through the ultraviolet site. However, it's a clunky pain in the butt because I think it only works through the ultraviolet website. And I'll be honest, if I'm watching a digital movie, I'm generally watching it in Vudu or Movies Anywhere or Amazon or something like that.
Family sharing is definitely the way to go with a lot of these companies, in my opinion, because it helps try to keep people legal. Because let's be honest, if you've got a son or a daughter or a mom or even like, a parent or a relative, you're probably just going to share your add-on, right? Like your link, if you trust them enough, right? You're going to do the Netflix thing is you're going to go into the computer, you're going to just log in, right? So it's smart for them to actually do these plans where they can keep people separate, but also share the titles. So I think it's great.
Well, smart, but they need to implement it better because, like I said, it's super clunky. Super clunky.
I know with Vudu, it can be streamed to 8 different devices, and it doesn't really discriminate if it's in your property or not. You could be all over the country, but you only get 8. And let me tell you, in a household of 4 or 5 people, you have more than 8 streaming devices these days. So just keeping it in the house active is an issue. But if you don't have a big family like I do, you could share some of those devices with somebody else.
So going back to the Kodi boxes for a second there, it's fairly prevalent for people to sell jailbroken Fire TV sticks, Fire TVs, Android TV boxes from China that are dirt cheap with bootleg versions of Kodi on it that have pointers to a bunch of the different illegal sites out there. Like if you go on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something like that, you'll almost always see on there right now, oh, buy your Kodi stick from me. I've got modded Fire TV sticks. So for $100, I'll give it to you and preload it with all these apps. It's the same kind of thing. What was it? There was the Popcorn Flicks app that was out there for a while that could only work on jailbroken devices that basically used BitTorrent to stream movies that were new releases and things like that. So these things have been out there. It's probably about time there's a crackdown. Roku got caught up in this actually, because for a while there, they weren't allowed to sell Rokus in Mexico because of piracy for the football leagues down there. And what was going on is the Roku beta channel, and almost anyone can stand up a channel on their beta side of the house. And people were putting together bootleg soccer beta channels, and people were downloading them and streaming a bunch of soccer games illegally. So at one point, you could not sell Rokus in Mexico.
Wow. That's crazy.
I'm not sure if that's resolved yet or not. I believe it has been, but they made Roku go in there and put better controls over their beta channels and say, look, there's some blatant piracy going on in here. You guys need to be monitoring this a little bit better.
You know, I honestly have no real problem with it myself. So it's, you know, what's going to happen, right? Like anybody who thinks that this sort of stuff isn't going to happen is insane, because you've seen it since the beginning of the internet, right? Like with music and then movies, like it's just the way it's going to be. So I got no problem with it.
Well, it is, but until you give people, the reason people do it is because it's so easy. It's the easiest way to get it. As you begin to develop things and make it easier for people to legally obtain these things, if it's less of a pain in the butt to do it, people don't go to the illegal methods as much. We saw it happen with music. Not necessarily when they start doing 99 cents a track, but look at like Spotify, Pandora, Google Play Music, and things like that, where it's $9.95 a month, get all the music you want. Now you've got people like, well, it's not even worth it for me to waste the time of going on BitTorrent and pirating this new album because it's already on the service I'm paying for once. So if you can make it easy for people to legally get the content, then they tend to steer down the legal path, it seems, more often than not.
Totally agree. And I think that music streaming is a great example of that. Yes, I know people who still won't pay the subscription, but there's a lot of people like you and I who probably at one point in our young adolescent life downloaded an MP3 or two, maybe two, but we probably did that, and now we pay for streaming services.
What's Napster?
Yeah. I'll give you an example where this breaks down. Last Friday night, we had a national TV event that basically belayed a lot of the shows for 20-25 minutes. If you had an over-the-air antenna and something like Tableau, where you're recording over-the-air broadcast, just like you would of a VCR years ago, and you didn't set it to go extra because you didn't know that there was going to be national TV broadcast during the show, but yet the channel slipped your broadcast to the right by 20 minutes. Now you've only seen the first 40 minutes of the show. Where are you going to get that extra 20 minutes? Yes, I understand you can go and buy it on iTunes, Amazon Prime, those sorts of things, but you've set this up to get TV shows for free. So I can see the mindset, almost the entitled mindset of I need to go out and get this somehow because I was set up to get it for free to begin with.
I guess. I don't know. The whole preemptive broadcast doesn't really play a factor in my decision on things, just because it's been something from the beginning of time. It seems like, remember we have to program our VCRs for a certain time and whatnot, or you'd get that special thing that you'd enter in that TV guide code. They never factored for it, right? So, this was always sort of a thing. But the good news in Canada is when you see that national televised broadcast happen and you go to play Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., was it Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Yeah, it was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's delayed, you just quickly go and you go, oh, look, it's about to start on the local Pacific Coast time on the Canadian channel, and you just set your Canadian channel to record and you're set. Because Canada rules!
Maybe it's a sign I'm getting old, but when stuff like that happens, I get cranky, I grumble a moment, and then I go, okay, I'll just wait until it's on the ABC app. Or if I really want to see it immediately, like SP said, go to iTunes, go to Amazon, and I'm willing to pay the $2.99 for the HD copy just to not have to worry about trying to get a copy through other means, worry about if it's good quality A or B, full of junk spyware, stuff like that. $2.99 is just worth it for the ease of use. And maybe it's just because I'm an adult and versus younger Chris, who was not an adult and didn't have a full-time job.
Fair.
Right. And that's the difference. We're older. We have disposable income. We can afford $2.99. A college student might not be able to, who's spent their $2.99 as part of that Tableau device, which is a couple of $100 in order to get TV for free and try to stay legal. So they're between a rock and a hard place at that point.
Well, then maybe they should just accept that they're not allowed to have TV for free.
Yeah, but when I was in college, the extent of my TV was live sports, and I spent the rest of my money on alcohol. I mean, it wasn't like I go back to college, Chris. I'm like, I didn't have must-have TV that I had to go and watch. There was very few things I came back
Agents
to
of
class.
S.H.I.E.L.D. is must-see TV, Chris.
What are the ratings?
They're must-see.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to our next news point, which is where Chris SP is gonna tell you all about some experiments with a virgin.
Well, a virgin is experimenting.
Okay, fair.
Oh my.
But yeah, I think it's the same thing. But let us know about this virgin experiment that you had.
We've been following this news story for years on Gonna Geek podcast, ever since the event occurred with VSS Enterprise on October 31st, 2014. We have been following the crash, the accident investigation, and then the recovery into new acquisition of hardware. And in an article on space.com way back on April 5th by Douglas Messier, titled Virgin Galactic Completes First Powered Flight Test Since Fatal 2014 Crash, we discover that indeed Virgin Galactic is not only back in the air, but back in powered flight. So Virgin Galactic made a triumphant return to powered flight on Thursday, April 5th, with a successful test of the company's Spaceship Two VSS Unity suborbital vehicle. It was the company's first powered flight in nearly 3.5 years, following the tragic loss of Spaceship Two's VSS Enterprise on October 31st, 2014. And remember, the late Stephen Hawking actually named VSS Unity. So VSS Unity was dropped from its White Knight 2 mothership from about 50,000 feet over the mountains, about 20 miles north of the Mojave Air and Space Port in California. And it was piloted by David McKay and Mark, aka Forger, Stuckey, and they fired Unity's hybrid engine for only 30 seconds. And that 30 seconds boosted the vehicle to a top speed of Mach 1.87. I'd like to see that on the quarter mile, by the way. That would beat everything out there. 30 seconds to Mach 1.87. You know it was going extremely slow before it got to Mach 1.87. Think of the G's. That would be a ride. That's awesome. Can't wait to fly on it someday.
Isn't your drone faster though?
Of course they are, but I can't sit in my drones. Yeah. So it went to a maximum altitude of just over 84,000 feet before gliding to the runway at the spaceport, Virgin Galactic representatives said. So during the descent, the crew actually deployed the Spaceship Two's feather system, which reconfigured the ship into a high-drag shuttlecock by moving both the twin-tail booms, and the feather maneuver will be used to soften the vehicle's reentry into Earth's atmosphere during spaceflight, and it was the cause of the crash back in October 31st, 2014. It actually functioned properly. The co-pilot actually erroneously activated it at the wrong time. So Virgin founder Richard Branson tweeted, "At Virgin Galactic is back on track. Successful powered flight, Mach 1.6, data review to come. Then on to the next flight. Space feels tantalizingly close now." So Unity's first powered flight came after more than a year of unpowered tests that saw the spacecraft glide back to the runway 7 times. The most recent glide flight was on January 11, 2018. Virgin Galactic representatives have said that they will conduct a series of powered flights throughout 2018 with increasingly longer engine firings. They expect the spaceship to get at least 50 miles up later this year. The altitude is defined as the beginning of space by a number of entities, including the U.S. Air Force, but not NASA. It's a little bit higher for NASA. Eventually, the test program will move down to Spaceport America in New Mexico, where Virgin Galactic is the anchor tenant. So they are moving away from the air and space port in California. The company hopes to start commercial service from Spaceport America later this year. Branson plans to be on that first commercial flight of Unity, which seats 6 passengers and 2 pilots. Other Spaceship Two vehicles are under construction. And oh, by the way, today, that flight on Thursday, April 5th, was a major milestone in another important way. While VSS Enterprise was built and flight tested by the company Scaled Composites, VSS Unity was actually produced by the Spaceship Company, which is also owned by Virgin Group and is not Scaled Composites. So a lot of successes all the way around. We're watching this closely. This is how most people are going to experience space tourism if they can pony up I believe it's $50,000 in order to get up there.
Wow. Well, that's quite the development. And also, any time that we get to hear you tell about your drag shuttlecock experience with the Virgin is a good thing, right?
Well, it is, except for when you talk about it back in October 31st, 2014. That was a bad flight.
That was a bad flight.
All right. So it's $50K. That's probably, you could probably haggle him down a little bit, right?
Well, I'm assuming that he'll want his advertisement on this podcast and therefore offer me a free flight so that we can videography the whole thing with drones inside the VSS Unity. It's going to be awesome.
So are you going?
Of course I'm going. And I'll be the only Gonna Geek Network representative that does go.
It's pretty true because we're
cool with that.
Yeah, I can't afford that $299 that Chris spoke about earlier.
You're already in space anyways. You're the director of NASA. We all know this.
That's right. You are on a green screen in the space station.
I'm not going to confirm or deny that.
Fun fact, by the way, I'm not talking about the ISS. I'm talking about that Chinese space station that went down. It didn't actually go down.
It didn't. That was all just a ploy for NASA to keep their station up there.
It was.
We thought it was. No, it was just space junk.
You know who's going to love that conspiracy theory?
Who?
Bandrew.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what? Go ahead and make sure that everybody talks about how SP actually kept the Chinese space station up in space. So there you go. Well, thank you for that. I know we were away last week, and I really, really missed my space news. I've talked about it before. I think that talking about space is a very important thing to keep things in pop culture, to keep us talking about it. So thank you very much, Stargate Pioneer. Chris, what do you have for your news point?
Guys, as I look at the date, as we record this, it's April 16th, 2018. We are 11 days away from a little flick called Avengers Infinity War. I don't know about you. I'm pretty pumped. I already have my tickets for Thursday night. Do you guys have tickets yet? Well, I know Steven doesn't. SP, do you have tickets yet?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'll be able to go opening weekend or not. We're in the middle of family scheduling issues.
Well, that's only natural. We know Steven doesn't see movies until they've been out for 6 months at least. So he might be seeing Black Panther by the time Avengers comes out.
Basically, when it comes out in Blu-ray, and then you add a few more months before he actually finds the time to put them in.
Yeah, that's a good point. But for those that weren't aware, and I think the whole world is, Avengers Infinity War is coming. It's got almost every superhero that's been introduced in the Marvel movies. I think the Russo brothers, who are directing the movie, said there was somewhere around 72 characters they had to account for within this movie. So there's lots of people in there. And we do know, this is not a spoiler, and I don't plan on getting into any spoilers, that the Guardians of the Galaxy will be appearing in Avengers Infinity War. This will be the first time the Guardians have been on screen in a film that James Gunn has not directed. Why do I bring this up? Because Dave Bautista, who plays Drax the Destroyer, dropped some information on the fans at AwesomeCon a couple weeks ago about how they pulled the Guardians of the Galaxy into the greater Marvel Universe. Well, how did they do it? The Russo brothers were smart. They reached out to James Gunn and said, hey, you've written these characters for 2 movies. They've been widely popular. One would argue we never expected Guardians 1 to do what it did in the box office. You understand how these guys work. How about you help us write the dialogue for the Guardians of the Galaxy? So James Gunn wrote a good chunk, if not all of the dialogue that the Guardians have in the movie. He worked with the Russo brothers to tie in any of his story elements he was having for Guardians 3 into the Avengers script so things wouldn't get overlooked. The Russo brothers had said they've done similar with Taika Waititi as he was doing Thor Ragnarok and Ryan Coogler as he was doing Black Panther. It's been a great joint effort between them. But the smartest thing they did here is take James Gunn, who has an incredible feel for these characters, and let him write the script for these guys, because he did something no one expected. Like I said, Guardians 1, if you had asked me if I thought that was going to be a good movie before it came out, I would have gone, I mean, it's a Marvel movie, so I'll give it a chance. But it defied all of my expectations. It became a pop cultural phenomenon and has been widely popular. So they brought James Gunn in to do that, which was a surprise. We did know he'd have some kind of involvement with Infinity War, though, because he will be credited as an executive producer on the project. But I wonder if he'll get any script writing credit as well now. Regardless, I think this is an awesome move. What do you guys think? Were they smart to bring James Gunn in to write the audio for the Guardian, or excuse me, the script for the Guardians?
I think the real question is James Gunn actually filling out the soundtrack for the movie?
Yeah, good point.
I have to say, I think that this is super smart. And the reason why I think it's smart is because the Guardians has this nice dynamic, right? Like there's feel, and those characters have quickly become so unique in the Marvel universe that really smart to kind of capture that and bottle that magic, right? So I think that that's great.
They're the only team. Anybody else is just similar characters in the movies. These are a team. They are the Guardians of the Galaxy. They work together, and it makes sense to keep them together, including their scriptwriter.
Yes.
Agreed. I am very much excited for this movie. I did not see Black Panther. I did not have a chance. I'm hoping that I'll be okay not to see it, because now it's too late. And
so, Steven, can I let you in on a dirty little secret?
Sure.
As good as Black Panther is, you really don't have to see it before Infinity War. You'd be okay not having seen Black Panther, I think.
We've talked about this before, and we don't know the answer to that. That is what we suspect, but we don't know for sure.
We'll see.
Really, the only one I can guarantee you probably don't need to see would be Spider-Man Homecoming. As much as I enjoyed that movie, you don't need to see Homecoming to really know what's going to be going on with Spider-Man. They introduced the character in Civil War. You know he works with Tony, and that's really about all you need to know for Infinity War, I think.
I don't know. I mean, no, I think that could come into play too with the whole reclamation aspect of it. You really don't know.
The reclamation? What?
Oh my
man.
gosh.
What?
Well, yeah, okay, good point. Now, part of where this comes into play
for saying that was a good point, Chris. You were talking to me, right?
Yeah, of course I was. So if you follow some of the subreddits over on Reddit, there's the Marvel Studios one. And why I was bringing up some of those movies there is they posed a question, and it's really tough. And it was, if you were going to tell someone they could only see 3 movies before Avengers Infinity War, and those were the only Marvel movies they were going to see, what movies would you give them? And I was sitting there and I went, well, that's really tough. So I had to make some decisions in my own personal headcanon, which was, they can only see 3. Spider-Man's not important. Black Panther's not important. It's probably Avengers, Civil War, and Guardians 1 is what I was thinking.
I'm thinking Elektra, The Phantom Menace, and Indiana Jones. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, that's certainly an interesting selection of 3.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you a 3 because I've never seen 3 movies. So there you go.
This is true. Steven has not seen 3 movies, and it put a chill down my spine when he said that. Ugh.
Well, he's seen Superman, though. Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
You know,
he loves Man of Steel. It's his favorite movie of all time. He thinks Zack Snyder is the best superhero director of all time. He did not ruin the DC cinematic universe at all.
No, I don't think we had a chance to talk about that. I finally saw Justice League, by the way, and yeah, not as bad as I would have thought, but definitely, yeah, Mustache Gate was fully true, and was an embarrassment, and really odd times, by the way, really odd times that they chose to keep footage. So yeah, anyways, let's leave that there and move on to our extra.
No, we can't just leave that there. I disagree. I think it was an entertaining movie.
No, it was. I didn't say it was bad. Did I? Oh, I said that it was...
You insinuated it, so I'm just saying it was entertaining.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily to say it's the best movie ever.
It was too mixed of a tone was my problem. Like, I kind of wish that it had been all done under one person or another, preferably the second person.
Oh, just like the Solo movie that's coming out?
Don't get me started.
Oh, dear. Steven, on a scale of Elektra to Civil War, how do you rank Justice League?
Oh, it's like past Civil War. Passive war. No, I'm just joking. You know what? Okay, honestly, it's like it's a middle of the road fun movie, and
exactly.
And you know, it could have been worse. And from what you can clearly tell by the mustache scenes, like they're the tell. It was definitely needed to have been redone. I can confidently say, because it was, you can see the stuff that was left in was really dark. So I'm happy with what was there, given the backstory with the DC universe.
In any event, the Avengers Infinity War, I'm really looking forward to that. I've been looking forward to that for a few years now, knowing that it's the culminating factor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it now. We know things are going to change afterwards. We just don't know what. So we'll see what happens.
11 days.
Yes.
11 days.
All right, so moving on to our extra section here. Guess what? Apparently,
Chicken butt.
Wow, that's just really immature. How dare you?
That is so Digital Soup of you.
That is Digital Soup of you. By the way, Digital Soup is a member.
Proud.
They are a member of the Gonna Geek Network, and you should check them out at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. So Apple, we know this, right? Apple likes to keep things under wraps. That's a big thing that they like to do, and they really don't like it when things leak. So it's especially awesome when they send out a memo that says, do not leak internal information, and that internal memo is leaked. So this happened. This absolutely happened about a week ago. Apple, in a leaked memo, Apple warned employees to stop leaking internal information on future plans and raised the potential legal action and criminal charges. And it said that they caught 29 leakers last year, and that 12 of those were arrested. So this is something that Apple is clearly unhappy with, the way that things have been leaked in recent years compared to the day of old, and they are now essentially making sure employees know that they might be criminally prosecuted.
Now, wait a minute. I don't blame the employees one bit, because in the Cupertino headquarters building, you have employees literally going to the emergency room because they literally walk into windows, into walls and doors that are windows, and the poor employees have concussions, so they might not even be aware of the consequences of leaking this information.
Fair point. And yeah, that's a funny story in itself that we didn't talk about on here. Hilarious. The brand new modern Apple facility. Yeah, apparently the glass was too clean and people walked into it, so they had to like put the frosted corporate bands everywhere.
They did that, and then originally they were putting Post-it notes on things so people wouldn't walk into them, and they were told to take the Post-it notes down because it was ruining the look of the building. And I was like, so you'd rather people like break their faces on glass? I'm very confused here. This is, I guess they're just walking the wrong way at headquarters.
Yeah, and while we are talking about leaks, by the way, let's talk about an Apple leak. And apparently, you know, we talked about the rumor of a red iPhone a while back. Well, guess what? Apple did apparently design a gold-colored version of the X. This was due to some regulatory filings that were recently discovered. There was a filed document in September 2017 that showed a gold iPhone X, or 10 if you'd prefer. But of course, as we know, Apple only released silver and space gray versions of the expensive $999 US device last year. So I guess just gold wasn't for them, or they were like, you know what, we can charge $1,000 for space gray. For gold, we can charge $3,000. That's my guess.
If you wanted a gold iPhone X, I'm betting you if you gave them $5,000, you'd get one.
You know what you could probably do? Just head down to your local Home Hardware or Home Depot or Home Store or Lowe's and just get a can of gold spray paint. Shh, all
Just
over your phone.
go to the dollar store, man. They're at the dollar store.
Are they?
Yeah.
The
Sorry.
iPhone X's or gold paint?
Well, the spray paint. If you find an iPhone X, it probably fell off the back of a truck somewhere.
I wouldn't be surprised if you could buy an iPhone X at a dollar store, because that's all they're worth.
It was just a really weirdly shaped J. It was a J Phone X. That's what it was. All right, so that's the extra news point. But before we do move on, I'm going to put SP in the hot seat here. He doesn't have this in the document, but he told me there was another interesting piece of space news this week that he was debating putting in, but decided that it wasn't. It didn't make the cut. What was that space news, SP?
Yeah, I was probably going to talk about this next week, but yeah, NASA actually launched another space telescope into space looking for planets. So yeah, we have another space telescope to talk about in the future sometime. It'll probably be after it's checked out and it's actually operational that we go into it, and we will follow its progress as it starts looking for planets. But don't forget, the James Webb Space Telescope is also going to be a planet hunter, and it's probably going to be more successful because it's a big telescope.
I know you were planning on mentioning it, but I wanted to mention it today just to confirm that the James Webb Telescope was not indeed in space yet. Just wanted to confirm that.
No, we talked about it, the fact that it's going to be delayed until 2020 now.
So it's just still not there. Okay, so it's still not as good as the Hubble. All right, let's go ahead and move on to SP Space Symposium. Here we go.
You probably know SP from various shows on the Gonna Geek Network. But did you know that outside of podcasting, he's actually the director of the secret government space organization called SNASA? You're about to hear him declassify some Area 51 level secrets in the segment he calls SP's Space Symposium.
This is the 99th podcast that we've done since we started my Space Symposium. Did you guys know that?
I did not know that.
I did not know.
Yeah, we started talking about the James Webb Space Telescope. And even before, actually, no, I'm wrong. We started talking about the Hubble on Gonna Geek episode number 124. So it's been more than 100 episodes.
Hashtag Hubble.
But it's been 99 episodes since we talked about the James Webb Space Telescope. So I'll just hang on to that. Anyway, we've talked about a whole bunch of space telescopes, and then when I was done talking about the space telescopes that we have launched as a world community, we went on to orbiting probes, and we started with Sputnik in October 4th, 1957. We've gone on to Sputnik 2, Explorer 1, Vanguard 1C. Well, this is the next evolution, and when we talked about Vanguard 1C, I was going to say we were going to talk about a failure, and we're talking about the failure of Pioneer 3. Now, Pioneer 3 was the first attempt by the United States to send a spacecraft to the moon. And that's not even technically correct because Pioneers 0, 1, and 2 also tried, but apparently they didn't get off the launch pad. So we can't really even call them attempts. But Pioneer was the program that the United States put together in order to send probes to extra space bodies like the moon or Venus or Mars or something like that. So we will be talking about more Pioneer space probes in the future, but this is the first one that we're going to talk about, Pioneer 3, and its mission was to head to the moon, and it was a failure. So what happened was it was launched from Cape Canaveral aboard a Juno 2 rocket on December 6, 1958. Its flight plan called for it to go up to the moon and then do a flyby of the moon, so they weren't trying to land on the moon, and then go into a solar orbit, basically outside of the Earth-Moon gravitational pull, and it would still orbit around the sun, but not around the Earth or the moon. Well, it got to an altitude of about 102,000 kilometers, and then it came back down to Earth because the first stage of the Juno 2 rocket did not fully fire. So it was a rocket failure. It was not a space probe failure. So let's talk about the Juno or the Pioneer 3 spacecraft a little bit. It had a mass of 5.87 kilograms, which is about 13 pounds, which I had to stretch for this, guys. It's lighter than one running board on a 2018 GMC Sierra 4x4.
No, he didn't. No.
I totally did. And I had to stretch for
Did you call your local GMC dealer and say, hey, what does a running board weigh? How did you find this information out?
That's a good question. So what I did is I was considering calling them, and I have done that in the past. But what I did is I'm like, well, I'm at work. People are going to start questioning why I'm calling the GMC dealer. So I went to Amazon, and, they give product weights on Amazon. So I went into the accessories for the GMC Sierra 4x4 and I had to put in a vehicle type, 2018 GMC Sierra 4x4 crew cab.
Was this aftermarket or OEM?
This is OEM.
Okay.
These are the silver running boards that you can get at the dealer. They're the same running boards, and they are 34 pounds for two or 17 pounds for one. So anyway,
Was
the
this with or without
spacecraft-
packaging?
What this is without.
Okay, just double checking. I just want to
You're
double check.
taking this way too serious.
Is it shipping weight or is this okay? Go ahead.
So it's lighter than a running board on a pickup truck. So the mission actually lasted 33 hours, 33 and three
Did it
quarter
include
hours.
the
something like that.
the mounting hardware as well, or what?
Yes,
Okay.
the mounting
Yes.
hardware is
Okay.
included
Just double check
for
that.
the running boards,
Perfect.
not for the spacecraft.
I should hope not.
I mean, there is a fairing.
spacecraft to my GMC Sierra and drive around town.
We all watched the SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch. I mean, we know what a fairing is. It's the thing that the convertible was sitting on top of. What's a fairing?
I don't know. Isn't it a little like creature, like long tail, almost weasel like?
No, that's the thing that's living under your sidewalk.
Oh, that's a ferret. Never mind. Never
Okay.
mind. Okay.
Anyway, the mission lasted 33 hours and about 40 minutes, and it came back down. So the payload, it had mercury batteries on board. It had a photoelectric sensor that was supposed to sense when the moon was getting close, and then it was going to release some weights, and then those, because it was spin stabilized, and they had to slow down the spin a little bit because it was going at 400 RPMs, and they wanted to bring it back down to somewhere around 5, 3 to 6, something like that. So the way they did that is they were going to extend some weights, slow it down a little bit, and then release the weights. And that would have slowed down the spin. It still would have been spin stabilized, but at least it would have been able to sense the moon, because the original mission was to actually take one picture, and they removed the camera from the payload and they replaced it with basically Geiger counters because the radiation belt had been discovered. So like, okay, we need to actually sense the radiation up there. So this spacecraft, Pioneer 3, discovered the second radiation Van Allen belt that was higher in altitude than the first one. So that is thanks to Pioneer 3 that we found out that Van Allen radiation belts were actually 2, not just 1. It also had a payload of a transmitter, and it had it was made out of fiberglass, and it was coated with gold as a dielectric. So it was a conductor. They wanted the external spacecraft body to actually be able to conduct electricity to help with the sensing of the radiation. So that was all neat. Just to let you know that this was a failure because it came back down onto Africa, burned up over Africa.
Wow.
On December 7th, 1958. So there you go. That's all you got. 13 of the hours were blackout periods, just because back then we didn't have telemetry stations all across the Earth that could actually sense it all the time. So they only had 2 at the time. And so there were blackout hours during the mission of 13 hours. So it didn't receive telemetry the whole time because of that. So yeah, it was just this, it looks like the tip of a bullet, basically. And it was really small. I would say it's about the size of a basketball, really. It's not all that big. And I think it was phenomenal what they were able to do back in 1958. What do you guys think?
I think that's awesome, especially the part where you talked about the 30,000 kilometer warranty on the GMC Sierra.
What's a kilometer? We're talking about miles.
Oh, sorry.
Either way, the warranty would have been busted during this flight.
Okay, gotcha. No,
Gone a little bit too far.
Honestly, one of the things that I found so fascinating about a lot of these things that you've done, especially when we're talking about like you're having to equate to keep your GMC Sierra gag going, you have to equate it to a running board. I've been so shocked at how small some of these things have been. Right, like it's incredible to me how small and light. It's shocking to me. I never would have pegged it. I don't know why. I had no idea until now, but it's very enlightening to me.
Yeah, even the manned space program was this way. We only shot one person into orbit during the Mercury program, right? Because we couldn't have the weight of 2 or 3 people that were in Gemini and Apollo. There was a reason we didn't have the rockets to lift off that much mass. And this was our original attempt. You gotta remember, World War II was 15 years prior, and they barely had the V1 and the V2 rockets, which a lot of this technology was based on. And that was a stretch just to go across the continent of Europe. And now we're talking about sending stuff to the moon. I mean, it's a leap in technology, and we had to develop in order to get to where we were in the late 60s of actually launching 3 men to the moon. But this was the original moon race, by the way. The Soviet Unions the Soviets were trying to get to the moon as well. So next time we're actually going to talk about Luna 1, which was their first attempt to reach the moon. And if it reached it or not, I don't know. We'll find out next time.
All right. And so just to clarify, are you Stargate Pioneer 1, 2, or 3? Because I'm assuming that somehow this ties into you.
I'm 4. That's the successful one.
Ah, gotcha. So you're Stargate Pioneer 4. What happened to the previous 3?
They blew up an
we just-
Oh, this isn't Babylon 5, sorry.
We just talked about the third one, came back down, and I'm assuming the other 3 burned up on the pad.
There's 3 Stargate Pioneers that burned up on the pad. That's what I'm understanding here.
Well, okay, so you've watched Star Trek The Next Generation, right?
What's a Star Trek?
You've watched Star Trek The Next Generation. I know you have. Stop being that silly.
Yes, I am very familiar with this alleged next generation of Star Trek.
Okay. Data wasn't the first android.
That's true. He was the... Is he the third?
The
I think it's
third,
fourth.
once they put B4 in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So there
And
you
there
go.
was evidence of others there too
Yeah.
at the lab with Dr. Soon.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So what we've learned today from this segment is that SP is an android. That was the moral of this segment. Thank you very much, SP. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Awesome. So there you go. If you have an Android of your own, please get in touch with us through any of the ways. You can always reach us at GonnaGeek.com. You can head on over to Facebook.com/GonnaGeek or just tweet us at GonnaGeek. If you want to send us an email, it's show@GonnaGeek.com and tell us why is your Android better than SP? Because we know that it might be.
Because mine's an Oreo.
Well, we know the SP Android is better than the Steven Android because the Steven Android actually blows up after every show.
That's true. It's easier. It's less wages that way. I never get a salary increase.
So Samsung makes the Steven Android.
Well played.
He has faulty batteries.
Something like that. They haven't redesigned it yet.
Yeah, there's a lot wrong with me, and I'm not going to argue it. So there you go. That is going to take us to the end of the show. Before we wrap up, let's just go around the table and plug and promote and do whatever we'd like to do. Let's start off with Stargate Pioneer. Stargate Pioneer, what do you have coming up on one of your 3,000 shows?
I'm going to talk about Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. because we talked about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. earlier. This season is rolling to a great conclusion in just a couple of weeks. It's going to be fun, and there's going to be some sort of tie-in to Avengers Infinity War. So stay tuned to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. as we recap everything as it happens, including some phenomenal episodes.
Chris Farrell, I know you want to do another promotion and everything, but let me ask you this. Since he plugged Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., you should plug Starling Tribune. I want to ask you this. How excited are you guys about the season being over? Are you excited over on the Starling Tribune? Because I feel like this is probably a really exciting moment that it's almost through.
So I'm excited to see if they can get things back on track to where it needs to be on that show. I have not made any secret of how critical I've been of the show. I think there's been very hit and miss this season. I think they have the potential to be able to try and bring things back in line. Honestly, I have no idea. Mostly what I'm looking forward to is wrapping this season of Arrow so we can finish doing all of the episodes of Legends of Tomorrow on the Starling Tribune, because that is quite possibly my favorite superhero show on TV right now, because they know exactly what they are. They're an ensemble cast that has a family-like vibe to them. that just goes out and has fun every week. It's just fun. There's not the stupid melodrama, the forced CW-ishness, I don't know if that's a word, as much as you see in Arrow and Flash. I just like that they go out and have zany adventures, and I can just eat popcorn and not have to think.
Yeah, and plus, spoiler alert, the end, they dumped some dead weight. Am I right or what?
They didn't actually dump the dead weight.
You haven't been listening to the podcast, have you?
I have, and you
you're
guys
fired.
crushed. I've heard about that. I read about it, and I was very disappointed. Like, how many times are we going to pretend that she's leaving? Just kill her already. Anyways, have you noticed, by the way, okay, now we're going to
You're very violent for a Canadian.
full spoiler territory of Legends of Tomorrow. Have you ever noticed that any time that, what's her name? Maya? Is that what her name is?
Maya.
Whenever she's on screen, she always looks like she's cold. She's got her arms crossed, and she's just like, Nate, I need a blanket. I need a blanket, Nate. This is what she looks like.
Gideon has to keep the temperature down in the Wave Runner because she's got all that sensitive electronics.
Yeah. Anyways, I wish that she wasn't on the show. It would have been nice.
Steven, it's okay. Bebo loves you.
Seriously. Okay. I am not going to say anything else, but it is exactly that moment is exactly what is right with Legends of Tomorrow. And it's the fact that they're willing to do something like that to have fun. So absolutely amazing. Plus, it was an awesome Power Rangers moment. So there you go. But that is going to take us to the end of the show. So for episode number 235 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Stephen John Drew saying, oh, I'm crossing my hands. I'm cold. Now I can be on Legends of Tomorrow.
MSP saying the Hubble's a bunch of junk.
And I'm Chris Farrell, reminding you that Bebo loves you.
Bebo. Well, Bebo. Bye.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of the Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.